you like to take us through roll call first?
Yes. Josh Wilbur. Carol Ann Rogers.
Present.
Thomas Stark.
Here.
Owen McCall.
Here.
Mike Pittman.
Here.
And Sandy Palmer.
Here.
Okay, and I believe the next item on the agenda is election of officers. Yep.
You want me to repeat that, Nicole? The next item on the agenda is election of our officers for 2023.
I nominate John Wilbur. I'm sorry,
Josh?
Josh Wilbur. Started with a J though. Josh Wilbur for chairman.
Aye, second. Roll call?
Thomas Stark.
Approve?
Carol Ann Rogers.
Approved.
Owen McCall.
Approve.
Sandy Palmer.
Approved.
And Mike Pittman.
Approve.
And I nominate Mike Pittman as vice chair. Have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, great. Roll call?
Sandy Palmer.
Approved.
Mike Pittman. Owen McCall.
Approve.
Thomas Stark.
Approve.
And Carol Ann Rogers.
Approved.
Okay, anything else on that, Brooke? Nicole? Okay, good.
We're good.
So let's go ahead, and did everybody have a chance to take a look at the minutes? Are there any changes, additions? Sandy, did you get your changes made that you sent in an email?
Yes,
Okay,
they were changed.
okay, good. Any other changes? Okay, I'll ask for a motion on last month's minutes.
I'll make a motion that we approve last month's minutes.
Have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, roll call?
Carol Ann Rogers.
Approved.
Thomas Stark.
Approve?
Owen McCall.
Approve.
Mike Pittman.
Approve.
And Sandy Palmer.
Abstain, I wasn't there.
Next, I'd like to welcome everybody that's come tonight. A little bit about the meeting tonight. We'll ask each of you to come up at a certain point and present your application for approval. And after we have that, we'll ask if, Brooke will go through the presentation that you've submitted to her. Then we'll ask the applicant if you have any additions you'd like to make to the presentation. After that, we'll see if the board has any questions or comments, and then we'll refer it back out to the public for questions and comments. After that, we will work our way through the findings of fact according to our guidelines and ask each member if the application meets the guidelines and why. We'll ask for a motion, and then we'll get a second, and then we'll do a roll call. Also, at the end of whatever the decision is, we'll remind each of you to make sure that you've got your building permits, zoning variances, and et cetera in place before you start the work. With that said, we've got our first applicant, and that is Debbie Morris. And Debbie, if you could come up and state your name and your address.
Address or the address this is pertaining to?
Is it the address pertaining to?
Either one. It's the one on the application.
Okay, the 313.
Yeah, Debbie Morris, 313 East First Street.
Okay, Brooke.
This property is a circa 1900 vernacular warehouse. It is a contributing structure, zoned Central Business District. The COA request is to replace 9 wood windows with 9 vinyl windows of the same size, shape, and design. You can see a before picture here. This is of the west side of the building for reference. This would be the east side of the building before, and the front of the building before, which faces south. This is a close-up picture of a new window that was installed. New windows installed on the front and on the west elevation. And that is all I have.
Debbie, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
A couple things. First of all, I was in the middle of selling my business. It's been sold, the building's been sold. The windows had to go in, they were rotted, and there was heat being lost and paying really high electric bills. So I was told by my contractor that they could not be repaired. They were too much damage. They were falling out of the windows, which was dangerous for patrons going by. And I put in what I could afford, which was still very expensive for me anyway. So it's been done and over with, so I apologize for that.
Do you have any actual physical evidence, like photographs of the old windows showing the deterioration?
No, not really. I didn't even realize I needed that.
Okay. So, we have any questions or concerns or comments from the board?
I do. Ms. Morris, I noticed that you have Boss Construction. Is that the fellow you were working with, or the company?
Yes,
Okay.
Gary.
Did they at any time tell you before they put in those windows that you had to come before the historic board?
No, they did not.
And you were not aware of us being in existence here?
Well, yeah, but I didn't know the windows because I was reading online what the requirements were, and I didn't think that it didn't say anything about windows. So I just guess I overlooked that.
Okay, is your construction man here today?
No, he's not.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
Brooke, is he an approved vendor or approved contractor on our contractor list?
Boss Construction.
Yes.
The last time I checked, he was not registered with the city, but that's been a few weeks back.
Does a company have to be registered before they can legally provide services in this town?
Yes, contractors must be registered with the city prior to working a job, yes.
So he may have broken an ordinance.
Yes.
Do you have any other questions from the board? Sandy, can you lead us through the findings of fact?
Sure. Well, the design guidelines definitely state that windows are a prominent element and they are not to be removed. They should be repaired or, if at all possible, unless they're like 85% deteriorated. The first guideline is retain and preserve historic windows. You did not meet that, obviously. Maintain existing historic windows where possible. Again, we don't really have any evidence of the deterioration. Repair when possible, so none of those have been met. Replace in kind or using replacement windows that match. Really, the vinyl windows in the downtown historic building like that are not. That's not in conformance. And then 18.5 doesn't apply right now. Tinted glass isn't appropriate, but that's not an issue here. The windows must match the originals in overall size and opening area. It's not met, and new windows shall not alter the historic character of the building. And again, I don't think that's in conformance. Is there anything else on there? The next one?
I think that covers it.
And then the other overall thing is the ordinance, definitely states that a certificate of appropriateness is required before, construction work. So again, not in conformance.
So Sandy, do you think that it meets our guidelines or does not meet our guidelines overall?
It does not meet the historic guidelines.
Mike?
I agree with Sandy for the same reasons.
Owen?
I went by the building and, all of the windows had not been replaced. So the ones that are still there, at least on the first floor where I could see them closely, looked in really good shape. So it kind of surprises me to hear that the ones that are now been replaced were falling out when the ones that are still there.
We actually repaired those on the other side, and the ones in the front and the one on the side, I think because of the weather, the sun hits that area more and damaged them more. I don't know.
Okay. Well, regardless, I agree with Sandy for the same reasons.
And Carol Ann?
I agree with Sandy.
And I also agree with Sandy. I wish we had had some evidence of the deterioration, but since we don't, it would, would be almost impossible for us to go against the guidelines that we just talked about. So, that said, your denied COA will be in the mail, and you can work with preservation.
We have to have a
Oh,
vote.
I'm sorry. Yeah,
A
yeah.
motion and a vote.
Have to vote.
I'll make the motion.
Any public comments?
I have a question. If you deny it, and it sounds like you're going to, I don't own the building anymore. I can't do anything with it. So I just don't even understand how this is even going on
Ms.
further.
Morris, who is the owner?
The new owner is Paulette Bondcutter and her daughter Angela Howitt.
Are you still managing there?
No, no.
Okay, so I'll ask for a motion then.
I'll make the motion. Based on the preceding findings of fact, I move that the Madison Historic Board of Review deny a certificate of appropriateness for the replacement of the wood windows, 9 vinyl windows of the same size and design as requested by Deborah Morris at the 313 East First Street location.
Do you have a second?
A second.
Thomas Stark,
Approve?
Owen McCall,
Approve.
Sandy Palmer,
Approve.
Carol Ann Rogers,
Approve.
and Mike Pittman.
Approve.
And as I said, Debbie, your denied COA will be in the mail, and you can work with preservation staff to see if we can correct the issue.
Okay.
Thanks for coming in.
I mean, she doesn't own the building anymore, so she's not gonna do that. Right,
You're
so,
probably right, yeah. But
so then Devin, where do we go from here? What happens now?
We'll discuss it with the staff.
Okay.
our next applicant,
Is Chris and Gina Lynn at 214 West Second Street. And just for the record, can you guys state your names and your address again?
Gina Lynn, 214 West Second Street.
Christopher Lynn.
This structure is a circa 1870 Italianate duplex. It is a contributing structure zoned Historic District Residential. The COA request is to amend the previous COA and to replace the existing door on the west side of the front of the home with a window and trim to match other existing windows on the front of home. The picture shown here is prior to their project getting started. The image on the left and the image on the right are current photos. These are photo of while the work was in progress. Photo of what it currently looks like. And then these are photos that the applicants have submitted. This shows the east side of the home. This shows the front. This is actually a door. I know it shows a little distorted on the screen, but this is that west side door. And then these are also photos of the front of the home showing the window restoration and other work that has been done. And that is all I have.
There's one more picture.
That was
That one.
this one on the left.
So, because that's the important one, that's the one on the left is what was submitted originally, because we didn't really, we said we were gonna kind of make a window door. So we basically just used a renovated, I mean, a real restored door, window, built the door around it, and left the opening of the door is still there. We're not filling it in with brick or anything, so it really isn't a window, it's a door built from a window.
If you look at one of the pictures, I actually took the door that was on the left, and because we were gonna actually cut it down originally, make it look like a window door, I restored it, moved it to the main door just to preserve it. So we went with, Seth Elder actually rebuilt the windows to be period correct for that side that now represents the door window. And so as Gina said, it actually, we have the entire opening still there, it just has wood at the bottom. We don't plan on putting brick, we actually plan on painting it exactly the same white, the origami white as the rest. But that is a period correct window, and I saved the door that was there and moved it to the front. So the front door, in one of those pictures you can see it, I've actually restored the door that was sitting there, it's now in the front. So, in the upper corner to the right. So I did salvage the door, I wanted to make sure I preserved it.
Is it in one of these pictures?
It is in the upper right-hand corner, that green door is actually the door that was on that left there, that we were gonna cut down and make it look more like a window door. And I wanted to save it, so I actually had it restored. And so we used a donor set of windows for the left side that has what we call the door window. That's a set of windows that Seth Elder had as a donor that was period correct, and we went ahead and restored that front to make it look very similar to the other two. But the window sill is not stone, it's wood, and it's all removable, and it was intended to be painted white to match, so it will look like it's one piece.
And the bottom will have a panel, so you can see where the bottom of the door would be, and then we'll just have to do something with it decoratively. But we're very mindful to keep the door frame intact. And I want you to know this man, with Seth Elder's help, restored every window in
All
our home.
26 windows were
He took them out
restored.
and fixed them and put them back in himself.
So we wanted to make sure we maintained the home, and we did the painstaking effort to go ahead and restore all 26 of them, replacing what was needed to be replaced from the wood, with original wood, and also the glass.
And yeah, Seth did the really damaged ones and the ones with the broken glass and replaced the wavy glass with the wavy glass.
Yeah, all new stops. The weights they're fully functional windows now, all of them.
The ropes are in there.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions from the board?
I have a question. On the door window, it shows, in this old picture here, all four of those openings have the large piece across the top. In this picture, it is not there.
We're still in the process of doing the exterior. So the carpenter is still working on that eyebrow.
The eyebrow's being worked on to make it match.
Yeah.
So the entire front, we had to wait till the scaffolding was moved out, so we can go ahead, Dan Pittman's gonna finish doing all the woodwork, repairing everything he can, put the teeth back, the eyebrow, and then it's all gonna be fully painted.
Okay, you originally asked to replace that door with another door, and then instead of that, you made it a window. Is that?
It was always gonna be like a window door.
We were gonna take a door and actually make it look like a window, cut it out and put window inside of one.
Okay,
But I saved that door and put it on the front,
okay.
so yeah.
But you still have that existing door if a person came along
Yeah.
behind you and wanted to
Yeah.
replace it.
I have the one that was on the front, because actually the one on the front on the right side was a little less quality than the one that was on the left that I
Oh, really?
saved.
Yeah.
So I have that one still stored.
Right, we have that in the garage.
And those two doors are matching?
They are matching, yeah.
I'm confused. Are you saying that when you applied for your certificate of appropriateness in last year, that you were approved to put a door where that window, where, it was a duplex, so there should be two doors.
Well,
And you were approved to put,
to do it
take
like
away
this.
one and make that into a window?
Yeah, we
You
were
were- that was
approved for that, to make the door look like a window.
Yeah,
And that was approved?
yes.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think somebody just didn't like the fact that our carpenter, Dan put, the seal on it.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't think, oh, I
That
don't
was
know, I don't know what it, it's a matter
Because
of
the seal was
liking
really-
it, just a
it's
matter
not
of like it
functioning
should be a
window,
door,
Even though
Right.
it is two window sashes.
So
according to guidelines.
if I'm understanding you, then that is the window that's there currently is a door. It's just embedded in the wall on the,
Yeah.
so it's a full door in there. Is that correct?
It's a full piece, two sashes, and then the wood below goes straight down, and he happened to just put a facade sill on it to make it look like it was the seal that we can paint to look like the rest of them. But really, that's one piece.
Right, because it's not gonna look like a window because it takes the whole door opening. So we didn't try to, all that's removable, we didn't fill it in with brick or anything to make it look like the others. We're just gonna do something decorative, but the whole intent was to make it appear as if it were a window, and then we just thought, well, we're doing all this restoration, we might as well use the period correct
Well,
window.
it was 214, 216, and now it's just 214. The addresses have been combined. It's a single-family home. So we left the outer door jamb intact, so the door can go back in, but we replaced it with the appearance of the window door.
Are you saying that from from inside the house, it looks like there's a door there?
No. In the inside, it looks like a window because we actually do have drywall coming across the
Right.
bottom.
Yeah, so it would have
But
to be
that is a
cut out.
separate piece also.
And we were told that that's fine, cause we've got doors that, you see doors on the outside, but they're
Yeah,
not doors.
we kept all the side doors, and even on the inside, they're solid
And the two-
drywall.
and the back
But we
door.
still have the two doors on the outside to maintain the appearance, so we did that. All three doors on the picture that you see are facade doors, they're not real doors. I mean, they're the originals
Well,
that
they're
we've just.
real doors, they're just not going anywhere.
They're just not functional,
Yeah.
there's a wall behind them.
I think
But
my issue-
your CO of A that you got already was to
Yeah,
keep that door as a door.
it looks like that, looks like
Yeah.
a window. It was
So
supposed
you
to,
did not follow through with what was approved. You changed it without getting a new CO of A, right?
Well, we interpreted that
yeah.
appearance there, we were gonna put a window inside of that frame of the door. Well, we chose not to destroy the door, we kept it. So we actually framed around two sashes without using the door frame, without using the door itself. We didn't wanna trash one of the doors. We were approved to take a door and put a window
in
inside
it,
of it.
right. So I guess it's just a distinction that we didn't think was.
Yeah, we didn't think that,
Cause we always called it the window door.
it was enough of a distinction. We didn't realize it didn't meet it.
And we were told that it was keeping the integrity of the door frame was important, because it needed to always be able to become a door.
Who told you that?
Well, when we originally wanted to brick it, we wanted to
Right.
go across with brick and actually
Yeah.
put in a formal window, so we were working with Brian Martin.
Yeah.
And he had
said-
submitted it, and we were
Right.
talking to someone here in this office, and they had told us that, no, you can't go to the extent of bricking and making it a window, but this would be the compromise. So we submitted that. That's actually Brian's drawing.
Yeah, we weren't even in Madison yet.
Well, but that is, the whole door opening is still there in that drawing.
Well, it's still
It's
there.
still there
It's
in
still-
in the house.
The problem is the seal makes it look like it's not, but that jam is still there.
The other part is it's not finished, right? So underneath, you can see the plywood, but that's gonna be a flat panel, so it looks like there's just one piece with the embedded window. So it's not done, and when it's all painted, it will be white, so it'll appear as if it's all one
One piece.
piece.
I also noticed that the limestone steps were removed.
Yeah. and they-
Yes.
Okay.
Matter of fact, it's
Right,
in
they're
the
blurred
picture.
out there, yeah.
Yeah.
So when he
In
submitted
the
it-
original COA, did we approve that they could be removed?
No.
Okay.
He blurred them out right there. That thing was, that we removed it in the picture, because we were never planning to have those stairs.
And that's something that Jim Pruitt put in after the porch was removed, so those were not correct.
Right.
Those were brand new.
Also, I noticed that, it's like most of our homes, stacked rock foundation. And where the steps were removed, you can see the stacked rock.
Yes.
How are you planning to mitigate that?
I'm doing some work right now. We're having it done by Dennis. He's doing the gables right now under the original submittal for doing our tuck pointing, and I've shown that to him today. So he's come up with some ideas of taking plaster across it and trying to match it to be equal to what's currently there. It's gonna cost us some money, but we thought it would be worth having it look done.
Is that
That's
something
one
we
of the
would,
options.
yeah, is that something we would have to submit? Cause I'd probably be good to know that now.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that was what the picture was supposed to show, that it was, they removed the steps and then we covered up that little spot.
I think, what some members on the board are concerned about is that it does look like a window now and not like a door. So it looks, instead of being a shared wall double, it looks like it's all was built now as one family home. And I think that's some of the frustration that we're, experiencing with the questions that we're asking.
Right, because the inside of it, with not having doors, that's not a problem, but if it was a historic duplex, there should be two doors on the outside. I mean, to keep it historically.
Well, and I think what threw us for our roof is, our carpenter put in, and I keep mentioning this, the sill. The sill is what makes it look like the window. We didn't actually expect that, and he put it in. I mean, obviously, we like it because it makes it match the rest, but if you remove that seal, it's flat in front, straight on the, you still have the door jamb. It looks like the picture. The only thing that changes that from the picture is when we have a seal now in it, which is wood. So this picture, this right here, if you don't mind me coming up, this right here, we didn't intend, and he actually put it in, and then we noticed it after the fact, and so I think that's what caught the attention, because this would be straight underneath it, and this would look like the picture without that piece.
But that piece
And that would
actually,
be the size of a door.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is all the same size as
Yeah.
the door. This is
It's-
exactly the same door jamb.
You can see the door jamb when you get up there.
It's
He
the original
built it
door
around
jamb.
the door jamb.
Yeah.
that,
That's what we were trying to be mindful of that, so that it could be returned to that state, but, for us, it's a single-family home.
but this will actually then look like a single-family home, and it mimics some of the homes that are built that way too in town. I mean, there are some that have the same window configuration I think that you all have there, and it'll look like that, but there's nothing to prevent an owner
Right. from
who
making
wanted to
that.
turn it back to make it look like it was the original.
Correct.
yeah.
That's what,
Am
that
I
was
correct?
the intent,
That was the
yes.
intent. And I still have
You have the
I have
door.
one of the doors that matches the other one that I've restored, that if we need to put that into storage and hold on to, we can. It's the original matching door. I just happened to use this left one for the front door because it was in better condition to have it restored, but I still have the right one that was the front door originally, and they're matching doors.
Well, I can tell you that I've done a couple restorations where it was just a single door opening onto a sidewalk. And it was quite an ordeal to get the board to allow me to move that door. And a lot of explanation, a lot of angst on the part of the board, and also I think some other folks, but you live in it, correct? That's gonna be your home.
It's our forever home. We're not
And,
flipping this.
and you've invested quite a bit of money already in that home, like we
More than
can
we
tell.
would ever admit.
Most rehabbers will not admit how much they put in. But, from my perspective, I think the way you're gonna use, if you look at the history of these homes, not very many of them are being used the way they were originally used. They're either been changed, they're not, multiple family houses, or they were multiple family houses, now they're single family houses. I mean, it goes back and forth. But I think the fact that, you've got a situation where you maintain the historical, materials that were used in that door, I think that's interesting. I think that's
And there really wasn't a whole lot to keep, because the inside was so badly damaged, but, we have the downstairs is almost all, we took all the moldings off of the windows and the baseboards, cleaned them up, and put them back in. after we built out the walls in the house. We've used the spindles, we've used the newel posts, of the original home, mixed it with the new stuff. It was so interesting after we stripped the molding, we actually didn't paint the moldings in some of the rooms, and you could see all the layers of paint. So we have done the best that we can do to keep, and he got mad at me because I wanted to reuse everything, and he was like, I don't want to, but now that we've done it and mixed the new and the old, it's really, really something to see inside.
Well, I think the lesson here is if you're gonna make an exterior change, even one like that may seem minor to you, but it's very obvious to someone walking by, I think it should be brought before at least the preservationists and
Well,
perhaps the
and,
board.
we understood that, and like I said, I think part of it was we thought we were doing the window door always, so when I saw the way this was written, that's not how I submitted it. I did not think we changed our plan. I thought we stayed on track. And that's why he keeps talking about the sill, because that was a surprise to us too. It was a happy surprise because I liked the way it looked, but that was not the picture, and that was not what, the contractor did the drawings, and that's not exactly what ended up happening, but that was not something that we specifically asked for. We were happy that he did it,
No,
but
we
we
did,
didn't
and as
ask
a
for
matter
it.
of fact, that day he had done that, we noticed it, and I think that's when somebody noticed it too,
Yeah.
that submitted to, to the city of Madison at the same time. I mean, literally within hours after that was installed, we got the notice. So, we'd like to keep it, we'd like to keep the
Yeah.
sill, because if we take the sill off, it is straight down and it does look, it depicts,
The picture.
exactly what the picture shows, but, we think it adds to, the house. I mean, we spent a lot of time, resources, and effort saving this home. I mean, if you've seen the home before and after, I mean, this was a dilapidated building that most people wrote off. We feel like we've saved it, and we think it adds to the beauty of it, to have that as, the front being a single-family home.
Well, even if you took the sill off, that's clearly a window. I mean, no door would have two sashes like that. So,
Well, it's a period correct window. We thought that we were actually doing a good thing by using materials from the period, to create the door.
Well, and we were allowed to actually put a window sashes into a door. I mean, we were gonna cut out a door and put sashes into it to make it represent the picture that was submitted.
Yeah, that's,
As I understand it, you mean from your first application?
Yeah,
yeah.
As I understand it, you were going to make a door that had the muttons and the panes that matched your windows, but it was still going to be a door, not a window.
well, what we thought we submitted was that we were gonna cut a door out and put a window into it because we could never match the appearance of the others. It would just stand out so much that we would have to refabricate something with the door that looked just like the windows to have the flow being correct. That it made more sense to use. We were going to actually take the sashes and put them inside a door, cut the door through. I mean, that was the easiest way to put that in there, to have it look the same. When I got with Seth Elder, he was the one to help me restore the windows. We were asking for suggestions on what we should do, and he said, well, we can use a donor set of sashes, and let's go ahead and just, go around it, and then you could build wood below it. It would have that same look, minus the seal, so where you don't have to hurt the existing door. The way that they fit is you couldn't put them in as is. I mean, you still have gaps on the sides. So you have roughly 2 inches on the sides there. It's hard to see that in the picture. So we would still have to frame around windows, or we would have to cut a door and make the door look like the depiction of the windows, which means that I don't think it would look near as good if we would have done that, because we tried to maintain, we have the same wavy glass, we have the same historic wood used. It would be hard to do that with the representation of a door.
I think the main concern, just to reiterate what I said a little earlier, is that we do not like to see modifications of openings on the front of the house. We have approved modifications on sides or the back, but we have not approved one on the front, at least as long as I've been here. And there are other examples of doubles with a shared wall that have been turned into single-family homes. And they've kept both doors. They've done them a little bit differently. There's one on Third, there's one on Plum, there's several of them around, but they're still doors. And I think that's the main concern here.
I guess my question would be, what makes it a door? Because it is wood with glass inside of the door frame. And in our the original approved picture, we never planned to have a doorknob, so it never was gonna look like a door.
It was never gonna be a functioning opening door.
Right. And that got approved, so it was never gonna look exactly like a door.
But I mean, clearly that is not, a two sash window. I mean, a window that has two movable panels in it, that is not what's shown on the left.
No,
Well, it's-
there's a slight difference, but that's an unusable window though, that's fixed, I mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't work.
Any more questions? Carolyn, did you have a question?
I do, but I don't know how to frame it. I tend to agree that in our strict definition, that it is not in compliance with how our regs are written. But I also tend to agree that with the way you are handling it and adding the window that makes it look like a single house, in no way, that doesn't bother me, even though it is not the compliance that the regs say. But I know that in the past, we have agreed to a small house adding a window when there was never a window there on the front. And there was a reason for that. So in this case, because they all look exactly the same, and you will no longer have the steps there, which were added when your realtor had it, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I think I remember that. Then, to me, it looks like a beautiful, single house. And I would have doubts that there would be 1 in 1,000 people who would walk by and go, oh, that used to be a double house, unless they knew the house. And they have obviously messed that up. I don't see it that way. So, that's how I feel about it.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions from the board? Do we have any public comments or questions?
Ken McWilliams, 315 Poplar, and I'm going to speak against allowing these changes. So when I was on the board, I don't think I ever found a project like this. I was always using the phrase insignificant neighborhood, insignificant house, to allow the owner to do what they wanted. But this is not insignificant, and especially after the new rating system that we have, I think this board and future boards need to protect the 60-plus significant homes in the district so that 100 years from now, we've got something to still show. And there are 5 significant homes surrounding this home. Thomas, the Harpers that share the alley, and of course, the Holy of Holies at Poplar and Second with the museum homes. And so, to me, we need to protect this block and have this door reinstalled the way it looked. Because I think at some point the ratings will have another team come through. Do they lose their contributing rating because of the change to the front of the house? And that will have a stunning change on the city. But thanks very much.
Thanks, Ken. Any other comments from the public? Owen, would you mind leading us through the findings of fact?
I need my cheat sheet here. There we go. Okay.
I will say though, that picture makes it look much more like a window than it really does in real life, because it's body this way. I mean,
It's
you
a
can
distortion.
see,
Yeah.
you can really see that it's all, that whole doorway is still there when you walk inside.
Tom, if I may, I'm saying this not as the attorney. This house has had, I don't think the picture was submitted, obviously, but prior to their ownership, that house had a porch Do you remember, does anybody remember that?
I do. That was added later after the original
Yeah.
construction. Yeah.
Okay. And that was removed. So, I'm just, for what it's worth.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that out loud.
And
I don't
as
know when the porch was added and when it was taken off.
It was, the porch was removed in 2020.
Yeah.
So I don't know when it was
taken
put
off
on.
because, and Jim came before the board with that. It wasn't historically correct to that building. So, no, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so doors and entrances, doors and entrances are a major focal point in the primary facade. We need to preserve all the elements of the historic entrance, including the original door and transom, sidelights, decorative surrounds. Let's see, original doors should be maintained and preserved. Okay. Okay. Historic doors should be retained and preserved. Okay, again, retain and preserve original doors, that's 9.1. 9.2, maintain and preserve original doors and entrances. Retain historic entrance features, including the jambs and the sills. Retain original primary doors on the main facade as they contribute to a building's historic appearance. It is not appropriate to infill or cover historic door openings. Okay, what else is appropriate here, or applicable?
Do you want me to move forward, or?
Yeah, I don't really see anything, there we go, okay. Retain and preserve historic windows, we're talking about doors though. Okay, I could have sworn there was something in here, maybe I'm getting the new guidelines mixed up with our previous ones, but, not supposed to change, I believe maybe we already said that earlier, the facade, opening, can't change door to a window or window to a door on the primary facade. So, given that that's what we're doing here, I would say that this, application does not meet the guidelines.
Sandy?
I agree.
Mike?
I disagree. I think that the applicant has made a significant effort to preserve the materials, as I can understand the confusion with the original application with what you're doing, but I think one of the things I would recommend with you guys, I mean, and once you do a significant house restoration, your first point of contact on anything should be that lady right over there, the preservationist, because any change really, well, you may think it's minor, it may not be in somebody else's eyes. So I would, but I disagree. I think you have maintained the materials. You've actually, I think, gone above and beyond what a lot of other folks do as far as attempting to maintain the materials, not only on that door, but on the rest of the house and the windows. So I compliment you on those.
Carol Ann?
I disagree.
So I agree with Owen and Sandy for the reasons that we talked about a little earlier tonight. You guys have done a tremendous job on that property. The unfortunate thing is we're basically on the historic Madison campus, and each of those houses are very important. We have a very important block. With that said, changing anything on the facade of that and how it was initially used and lived in is just, it goes against our guidelines. That's where I fall in on this. But unfortunately, we need what for?
First, you need a motion first.
That's right. Yeah. So I'll ask for a motion then.
Can I just say one more thing? I would like, if you guys could just, take another look at the original certificate that was approved. As I said, there was no doorknob. It was approved to not to be a door. I mean, to fill the door, but not to have a doorknob, and that was in the original application.
And I think it's okay not to have a doorknob because it's still the door. But, you know, now with the sill, it's a window. It's no longer a door.
Well, and I think I understand where you're coming from, but I'm also thinking too, the people that have come through the last 2 years in this renovation have told us that house they thought was unsalvageable, and we've salvaged it to a level that I think would do the block justice. So I think the trade-off is, do you want a home that's falling down, dilapidated, and destroying upon itself, or do you want something that has been restored to a level that maintains that appearance of that block? And I do understand what you're saying about the differences of what was submitted and where we ended up today. I think that's why we're here. We understand that. But I also want the board just to consider the fact that that home was 6 apartments, and it was a mess. It was destroyed, and we've brought it back to life. And I think it's going to be a great compliment for the block.
Chris, there's no doubt that you guys have done an incredible restoration of that property. For us that have been there, you know, a little bit longer before you guys came, we knew we lived with it, trust me. However, you know, again, from the function of the house, how it was traditionally built and originally built, to alter that, you know, it could impact the way that we're evaluated in the future as well. It's obvious, I think, to people who have architecture backgrounds that come and do these surveys every now and then, that was a double, and they'll see it's a modification. I don't know how they would rate it going forward, but our guidelines, you know, strictly say no modifications to openings on the front of a building. So, I mean, this is tough. It's not, it's not easy, but anyway, I think we've got everybody's opinions. Did you have anything else you guys wanted to say before we take a motion?
If I may note real quick, to let Ms. Lynn know, the original COA was included in their packets, and it is part of the application. So the board does have a copy of that, because I know that you had asked for them to reference that back.
Yeah, because I just thought that it was misworded. The application was, the second one was a little misworded because I still don't think that's a window. And we were, you know, the only thing that happened was that the implementation of our vision was different. And that's why it appears a little bit different than the picture, because the contract, you know, because they, you know, took a little bit of leeway, trying to make us happy, and making it look a little bit more like the other structures. But yeah, I just felt like what we submitted showed the intent that we were trying to make it look like a window without hurting the door frame itself. And that's why I mentioned, you know, that there was no doorknob in the picture, because the intent was never for it to look, it was supposed to look as much like a window as we could without, you know, doing any major structural changes to that.
Anything else, Brooke? Okay, I'll ask for a motion.
I'll make a motion. Based on the preceding findings of fact, I move that the Madison Historic District Board of Review grant a certificate of appropriateness to Chris and Gina Lynn at 214 West 2nd for the proposed application as it is stated in, to replace the existing door on the west side of the front of the home with a window and trim to match other existing windows on front of the home.
I'll second.
Thomas Stark,
So, correct me if I'm wrong, but if I do not approve, I mean, that's
if you do not approve, you would deny.
deny.
If you want to grant the COA, you would approve.
Okay. Deny.
Owen McCall,
Do not approve.
Sandy Palmer,
Do not approve, and I would also like to say that what you've done is a beautiful job on that. Those are not our guidelines when we say you've done a great job, because it is, what you've done is save a house. I still would deny the motion.
Carol Ann Rogers?
She made the
I
motion.
made the motion.
I understand that, but she still has to vote.
Okay.
I approve.
And Mike Pittman?
Approve.
Okay, with that said, we needed 4, right, to deny the COA, so you guys will get your COA to go ahead and complete the work on the front of your house. And I know you've got all the work permits and everything else in place, so you won't need to do that. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
And thanks for what you're doing.
Our next applicant is Rick Rody. If you could state your name and your address.
My name is Rick Grody, and the address for the work to be done is 1029 West Second.
Great.
This structure is a non-contributing circa 1900 warehouse, zoned heavy manufacturing. The COA request is to install solar panels on the rear roof elevations. I'll go through a few pictures for you. This is the street level view of where the solar panels will be placed on the south. You can also see this view from about 100 yards out south of the building, and you can see arrows to where the solar panels will be. An overhead aerial view. This would be the view from First Street looking east towards the building, showing where the solar panels will be located on the roof from this angle. And that is all I have.
Rick, do you have anything else you'd like to add to the presentation?
I have picked a contractor, and I do have some images of, like a satellite image where the solar panels would go, if you want to see that real quick.
No, that'd be great. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So there's 3 meters, so there's 3 pictures here, each showing a different set of the panels.
Okay. Thanks, Rick.
And that elevation is all on the back, correct?
This is all from the south.
Of the south, yeah. Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else you'd like to add?
We'll be applying for a federal grant, so I'm hoping to avoid a section 106 historic review. I don't know if I get the numbers right or not. So minutes, assuming you guys are going to approve this, minutes from this meeting would be helpful to forward on to the next review.
Okay. Nicole, Brooke, is there anything that we need to know about that?
That's a independent review that's done by the state or federal government,
Okay.
but we're happy to provide anything he may need
Okay,
to get through that.
thank you. Okay, with that said, do we have any questions from the board?
Rick, the interior structure, I assume, can support those solar panels?
Yeah, majority of the panels are up on the asphalt shingles,
Okay.
and the roof is about 2 years old at this point. We replaced it all after the hailstorm that came through.
Who didn't?
The shingles were done by Derek Dickerson,
Okay.
and the flat white part was done by Mark Prickett.
Okay.
I assume they got their permits. I didn't follow up on any of that.
At least how I interpret your question, are the rafters that are underneath it, will it be able to support the new additions of the solar panels, weight-wise?
I haven't had a structural engineer go in, but if you've been in the building, it's built like a tank. I mean,
Okay.
there's 2x12s everywhere.
Great. Okay.
I can't imagine it being a problem.
To address that concern for the board, he'll need a building permit for the solar panels, and we'll address any deficiencies during that review.
Great.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Any other questions from the board?
I think it's a great project.
Any comments or questions from the public? Okay, with that said, Mike, could you lead us through the findings of fact?
Sure. New construction, energy retrofits. I think the fact that you're looking for a easier way to get some electricity into your place is a great idea, Rick. I think from the standpoint of historic dwellings were constructed with wide eaves and large floor-to-ceiling heights. Of course, this structure in the back was, I think, a little bit newer than most of our historic structures here in town, so that really doesn't apply. And I think from the standpoint of putting on the rear of the building and it being visibility would be limited to those panels, that'll be great. And I think the last point there, ensure the solar panels hardware attached to a dwelling is not readily visible from the street, which these will be. Unless you've got a real tall person. So, how high up is that roof, Rick?
20 feet?
20 feet? That's probably pretty close. Locate solar panels in the side or rear yards, which you're doing, which you're actually on the side or rear roofs. Do not use hardware frames, piping with a reflective finish, which I don't believe you're going to. So,
I don't, they told me what the panels were. I can get you the model number if you want.
I think what they're talking about there is not the actual panels themselves, it's actually the hardware and the frames and the piping coming down. So I think that's what they're talking
Of
about.
reflective material.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would think that up on the shingles, the panels are pretty much going to cover the racking that'll be there.
Okay.
I assume the racking's probably just going to be a flat black coating would be my
Okay.
assumption.
Okay.
The panels that are out on the flat part of the roof
Mhm.
will be standing up a little bit. And I don't know what material they're using.
Okay.
Potentially could ask for a white finish on them, if that's available.
Hardly visible anyway.
I mean, it's
Yeah,
a
it's-
white roof.
You have to be a giant to
Yeah,
see it.
it's hardly visible, so I don't
Yeah,
think it's a
yeah,
big issue there. Okay? Is that it?
Is that it? Yep.
I think he complies with all the guidelines, and I'm very pleased he's doing it.
Sandy?
I agree for the same reasons.
Owen?
I agree for the same reasons.
I agree for the same reasons, and I really want to commend you on doing this. I think you're going to be a leader with, a lot of the commercial buildings downtown as well, and maybe even residential. Carol Ann,
And I agree.
I'll ask for a motion.
Based on the preceding findings of fact, I move that the Madison Historic Board of Review grant a certificate of appropriateness for the proposed installation of solar panels on the rear roof elevations at 1029 West Second Street, as requested by Rick Brody.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Thomas Stark,
I approve.
Owen McCall,
Approve.
Sandy Palmer,
Approve.
Carol Ann Rogers,
Approve?
and Mike Pittman.
Approve.
Well, thank you for coming in tonight. You'll get your COA to go ahead and continue the work. And as Nicole mentioned earlier, you'll need to make sure you have all of your permits and everything in place before you start.
We'll probably have the contractor do the building permits.
That's fine. Thanks for coming in, Rick.
Thanks, Rick.
Okay, with that said, I believe that's our last applicant. And we are ready for new and old business. We're going to start with old business tonight. Has everybody seen the COA review, Brooke? The changes?
So you have the copy to please pass around.
Okay.
And that is with the color and the branding.
Yeah. So that is the window permit. Oh, get your same here.
The green will be the sign that will be posted for
And
the
then this is,
duration of a project. Once a person receives an
just that
approved
one.
COA.
Yeah.
And the orange is the COA copy that the applicant actually receives.
And that is not required to be in the window,
Correct,
correct?
that one would not be posted.
Brooke, this will be visible from all right-of-ways?
Yes, just like our large green application sign.
Okay.
Essentially, they're replacing the application sign for an approval sign.
Okay.
Pass those back down. what goes in the window.
If the board chooses to approve these changes, it'll need to be contingent on legal sign off. Devin hasn't seen the last version of them.
Okay. And is there a stamp or a city stamp that will be embossed on any of these? Okay. So then I'm going to ask the board, do we want to make a motion to approve the certificate as well as the sign to go in the window tonight? Any objection?
I so move.
Okay.
And I'll second.
Before you do roll call, we need to ask for public comment.
You need to ask for public
Yeah.
comment.
Any public comments? Okay. Devin? Oh, okay. Tessa, sorry.
I don't worry about, trust us.
Yeah, true.
Come on, Devin.
Okay, Devin, unless you throw your hands up in the air, I'm gonna ask Brooke to go ahead and do roll call.
Okay, y'all are good to, ask for public comment.
We
Oh,
just
you
did.
did, sorry, and vote then, now, since you have a motion and a second.
I'm sorry?
Since you have a motion and a second, you're good to vote.
Okay.
So. All right, Thomas Stark,
I approve.
Owen McCall,
Approve.
Sandy Palmer,
Approve.
Carol Ann Rogers,
Approve?
and Mike Pittman.
Approve.
So the next agenda item then is the staff review changes that have been made. How do you guys want to approach that?
Due to changes in the guidelines, staff is working on reviewing changes for your rules of procedure to allow staff to review additional items. We'll have that on your next agenda. It has to be on an agenda 2 times before you can vote on it. So it'll be first time officially on your next agenda, and then you'll be able to vote in 2 meetings.
So then we'll have a copy for everybody to look at
Yes.
at the next meeting?
Yep.
Okay, sounds good. Any comments on that? Nope. Brooke, would you like to talk a little bit about upcoming training?
Yes, so Nicole and I have been looking into doing training for the historic board members. We are investigating possible training with our NAPC, which is National Alliance of Preservation Commissions. It's called CAMP. I know many of you are familiar with that, having attended that in the past. We are investigating, looking into a possible virtual session, 3 sessions regarding legal basics, essentially how to make a defensible motion, how to do defensible findings of fact, things like that. Then also being able to practice those principles in walking through design guideline review and in making motions. So it would be 3 separate sessions. Like I said, we are in the phase of gathering information and looking at potential scheduling dates. If that does not work out for whatever reason, then we still will be doing a training session on the same or similar topics, but it would be in-house training with staff. But we'll let you know as we get more information.
Thank you, Brooke. With that said, is there any old or new business that we need to cover before we move to the staff report? Everybody good? Okay.
All right, so in looking at the January fast track applications, we had Jay Wood at 108 East Main Street. This is the HH Apothecary. Amend a previous COA to include a 72-inch by 30-inch aluminum sign. Essentially, they had been approved previously for a sign, and they're replacing the wording and design with a new one. Rick Cole at 752 Jefferson Street to replace 6 existing wood windows with 2 aluminum-clad picture windows on the south facade. Mark Vaterna at 526 Walnut Street, replace existing vinyl siding with cementous siding, replacement metal door with wood and glass door, and vinyl windows with aluminum-clad wood windows. And I will note, as of this morning, I went out with the building inspector and code enforcement officer. They did uncover some original historic wood siding, and he is hopeful to try to save that. If he can, then he will use that siding on the front and sides, rather than using like an LP or a hardy board. So I just thought I would mention that. And then the last is Joel Storm at 810 East Second Street to replace existing aluminum siding with cementous siding, to be a 3 to 5 inch reveal.
Great.
And then, the January 2022 COA review, William Peckinpah at 912 First Street, addition of doors and windows, that is in progress. Chad Gray, 928 Park Avenue, ADA ramp and doors, that has been done. Louis Joyner and John Morgan at 403 West First Street, porch columns and a roof modifications, that has been done. Matthew and Daniel Chandler at 111 East Second Street to replace windows, overhead door with double doors and side lights, install awning/sign, install 2 new doors in the east, that is in progress. And Van and Trevor Crafton at 422 St. Michael's Avenue to install new doors in the east and south, add 6 windows, build a shotgun rear addition, rebuild the east porch, replace 2 eastern windows with sliding glass doors, add 1 window on the eastern side, demolish the single-story frame addition on the rear, and build an additional 2nd story, and that has been done.
Thanks, Brooke. Can you go back to the page prior to this? So help me understand, Rick Cole on Jefferson, 752. So are those existing wood windows? What, 1/1? And are they were they original?
So those were existing, wood windows. I do believe, yes, they were 1/1. I would have to, I'm pretty positive those were, original to the home, but the home is non-contributing. I believe it was a circa 1950 or 1960 structure. The opening for the overall size of the window will not change. Currently it's 6 windows basically placed all together. So window, 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 window. And then instead of the 6, he's wanting to do 2.
Okay. 2 double hungs or 2
2 picture windows,
right next to each other?
correct.
Okay. Thank you. Well, with that said, is there anything else, Brooke, on your plate? I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
And I'll second it.
Great. All approve? Say aye.
Aye.